running the events almost every day to the event. Who's not member in here? Welcome to the Bali. And today we have events about from idea to done, like about writing and then publishing a book in a month. Maybe I can make a week. Can I?
You can do it in a week.
Yeah. Okay. And then directly we're talking about this. Enjoy, and then if you have any question, just raise your hand. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Derek. I've been publishing for about 10 years. I used some nonfiction books to grow a six-figure business, but then I quit client work and now I mostly write fiction because it's more enjoyable. So this is mostly going to be a presentation about how to use a book to build your business specifically. And I'll try to help you avoid some of the things that most people do when they think about writing a book, because most people, they want to write the perfect book and then they spend 5 or 10 years writing it and nobody wants it anyway and it doesn't make any money. And I don't think that's a good business strategy. So I think in a month is totally feasible once you have a plan and once you know exactly who your audience is and what kind of book you want to write. Also, rather than thinking I'm going to write this world-changing book and getting stuck on it forever, if you focus on I'm going to write some cheap, easy, shitty little book and publish it just to experience publishing and not worry about, is this amazing? It's much easier to get something finished and then get the experience so that when you finish that world-changing book, you'll actually know how to launch it and publish it well. So quickly, why write? It's easier to be a #1 bestseller. It actually doesn't mean that much. You can sell 10 copies and be a #1 Amazon bestseller, but it does sound kind of cool. So if you want to get clients and you say my book is a #1 bestseller, it's kind of an easy credibility boost that people take you a little more seriously if you have a book out. Also things like if you have a book and it looks good and you're meeting with a client, or even you make a video or something and you hold up the book you've written, it does position you a little bit more as an expert. Also, what I like is you can outrank competition really easily. So a lot of businesses, if you're competing with everybody for the Google traffic, it can be hard to rank very well. But a book on Amazon with those keywords in the title or subtitle is always going to rank on the first page of Google. Usually on the first page of Google, there's at least one Amazon book. And then also there's a bunch of Goodreads lists. So Goodreads is now owned by Amazon. It's kind of a book review site. And whatever you search for, like best books on XYZ, there will always be a Goodreads list or two that show up in the search results. So if you have a book in that category on that Goodreads list, you're going to be on the first page of Google. So if you're the only one in your field that has written a book, then you're going to outrank everybody else. A lot of people won't take the time to do it because they think publishing a book is too hard or too overwhelming, but it's a really easy way to get ahead of everybody else, which is why it can be really useful. When you publish a book, you can think about earnings versus upsell. So you can either publish a book that will earn, or you can publish a book that attracts clients and builds your business. They don't have to be the same thing. You can do both, but it's easier to focus on one or the other. I used to publish books to bring me clients. Now I don't want clients, so I'd rather my books actually earn money so I don't have to, attract them. I want my books to actually sell. So it's a different business model. And so you have to write different kinds of books depending on what your goals are. And then down here, I'll talk about this a little bit more in the next slide, but the manifesto versus the practical guide. Two things. One is discoverability versus branding. So on the one hand, you want something that can be found. So you're using keywords that your ideal clients or customers are actually searching for so that they find your book organically. That's really important if you want to attract clients to yourself. As opposed to branding, most entrepreneurs, they think about the branding book and they want to have their manifesto of what their story is all about or what their brand is all about, or they invent some cool word. And I've done that before. My brand is Creative Indie, so it's creative and indie, but spelled wrong and mashed together. So if I write a book on that subject, it's really good branding, but nobody will find it because they're not looking for me or my company. What I need to do is write a book on how to be a creative genius and add all the keywords that people are looking for when they think about those topics, because then they'll find me. So those are two different things. They don't have to be mutually exclusive, but generally it's better to write a practical guide first so that you get found, especially if you don't already have an audience. Once you build a big audience, then you can launch the branding guide because you'll have people who will buy it, and they'll buy it because they want to support you or because they already trust you. And it'll be easier because if you don't already have an audience and you're not using keywords, then nobody will find you and it's going to be really hard to launch. So a couple examples. This is the first example. Someone who doesn't have a platform, but they're trying to use keywords and be very specific on benefits. So it's, there's this huge title and subtitle that's all in there. Really big benefits, your own 7-figure internet business. So this is something that will appeal and attract an audience, as opposed to Jeff Walker, who already has a big audience and is launching something very specific. It still has tons of keywords and benefits in the subtitle, but it's a one-word title. And maybe people wouldn't actually be researching how to launch because that's not what they think their business problem is in the beginning. People would probably be thinking, like beginners would be, how do I do online business? They wouldn't already think about how to launch a product. But Jeff Walker is launching to a very specific type of entrepreneurs who are trying to launch a product, and he has a product launch formula, which is the solution. So in both cases, like he's kind of trying to sell the book and probably also trying to attract clients. He has a product to sell. So he's positioning himself as a brand and kind of stealing that terminology of launch. So whenever anybody thinks about launching anything, they're going to think about Jeff Walker, and then they're going to think about product launch formula, which is his main big thing. You'll also see differences in pricing because he has a big platform and because he's probably positioning himself as more of an expert. He's okay with charging a lot, even if the book doesn't really sell, because it's more about positioning. But he has tons of reviews. So it sells. Like you can sell a book at a higher price point sometimes. What I wouldn't recommend doing, a lot of people, when they choose pricing, they think, I want to position myself as an expert, so I'm going to price high. And that doesn't work if nobody finds your book and nobody buys your book. If you can't communicate the benefits, if you don't have 1,000 book reviews, when you price high and nobody buys it, your rank goes down, so nobody sees it, and your book is invisible. So if the book is invisible on Amazon, if you don't have a platform and you don't know anything about marketing, it doesn't matter what you price your book or what you call your book because nobody's seeing it anyway. Whereas he, $2.99 is kind of a cheap, reasonable entry point. So people they don't know who he is, but they might think, well, this sounds good. I can buy it at $2.99. It's no big deal. So it also depends. I usually recommend pricing low or free, especially if you're using a book to attract an audience to you. You want to decrease the price to entry as much as possible. So if you're trying to appeal to clients, I'd rather have a few thousand people download the book for free and then sign up to my upsell or my opt-in offer and hopefully become clients, than I would sell 100 books. Because if you sell 100 books, it's a couple $100, but that's not a lot of revenue. Okay, so a couple of things here. If you're thinking about your perfect idea, like I said earlier, you probably don't want to think about your brand, manifesto, mission in life. You want to think of something specific and small that will appeal to your audience. It will solve one specific problem for your audience, and also that doesn't have a ton of competition. So maybe you don't exactly know who you serve yet or who your business is yet. You can do research, and you can do keyword research on what people are actually searching for. And then look on Amazon and see, is that demand being met, or is there a gap? Is there a lot of other books that are hitting all those keywords? And how well are they selling? And do they have a lot of reviews? You want to, if someone's interested in a topic, they're not going to read one book. They're probably going to read 5 or 10 books. So as long as you're in the top 10 of that specific category and those books are selling well, that's probably a good place to be. You just want to focus on the money, which I say even for fiction. A lot of people get upset about me because they want fiction to be about the art and the craft. But focusing on the money means you're focusing on providing value to readers. So even with fiction, I write books that readers enjoy on purpose. That makes it easier for me to make money, and it also keeps my readers happy. And I'm writing, I think, better quality books because I believe the bar of, the quality of a product should be measured by how much people like it or enjoy it or are satisfied with it. In literature, that's not the way most people think. They think if it's difficult and nobody likes it, you probably are a misunderstood genius and it's the best book in the world. So there's lots of failed artists who are writing books that nobody wants to read. But for entrepreneurs, you probably already know if you want to make any money with anything, you need to provide value that people are willing to pay for. And also find your audience. So what do they need? Not what do you want to tell them or what's your story. It's really just do you focus on yourself and what you want to communicate, or do you focus on what they're looking for, what they want, what they need, and helping them solve problems? So for example, I used to talk a lot about book marketing because that's kind of my business, is book marketing stuff. But that's not a very big audience because most authors never finish writing books. So they don't need book marketing. First, they need, how do I have the motivation to finish a book, or what should I write about, or writing prompts is what everybody's searching for, because they don't even know like what to write. So they're looking for that stuff. If I want to sell my book marketing stuff, first I need to write books about how to write books so that I'm attracting a wider audience and solving the basic core problem. If I can help them solve that problem of how to write books, then when they're ready to actually publish or market, then they'll know who I am and they'll be more willing to buy stuff. So getting it done, I'll kind of go through this quickly, but you don't have to write this huge, big book. I actually recommend starting small and writing about 10,000 words. And an easy way to do this, if you're already blogging, is just to break it up into blog posts. So you basically figure out your one topic and you make your, like, this is how you do that one topic, and you just break it into subjects, and then write like a blog series, like 7 or 10 blog posts of 1,000 words each, or a couple thousand words each. If you're already more familiar with WordPress or blogging, that's just an easier way to do it. There's less resistance. And then you can turn that all into something. But you don't really want to just like do everything or have this massive post to the secret of the universe. Most people, they just want to solve one quick problem, especially I think in nonfiction and business. People don't enjoy reading that many books anyway. They just want a quick, actionable, something that really solves their problem. They don't, I'm going to talk later about why it's important to add stories into the book, but they don't really want all your stories about your history and your life and your epiphanies and whatever. They want actionable steps that will help them to improve their lives or solve their problems. So don't try to do everything. 10,000 words, and then this part, pull quotes and anecdotes from leaders in your community. So if you don't have a business or a platform, the really nice thing about publishing a book is you can reach out to 20 or 30 industry leaders in your field or in the field that you want to move into, and you can say, I'm writing a book on this topic. I would love it if you could answer this question. You have to make it easy for them because this is kind of cold emailing. The advantage is if you already have a nice cover or a really good idea, you're not just asking for feedback. You're saying, I'm going to publish this book and I'd love to feature you in my book. Yeah, there's probably seats back there. So the advantage of this, not only does it give you a reason to reach out to industry leaders, because otherwise, like, there's no reason for you to just kind of partner with them or make friends with them. If you're writing a book, it gives you an excuse to reach out and start a relationship with them. You want to make it really easy for them, though, and not say, like, can I interview you? Because most people won't have time for that. But if you say, by email, I would love it if you could answer one of these 3 questions in a paragraph or less. That's something that's pretty easy for people to respond to. The advantage is they may be featured in a book, so that's not bad for them. It's free advertising for them. The more you can sell the benefits, the more you'll be able to get people into your book. But the advantage is then if you include 20 or 30 quotes or examples from other industry leaders, when your book launches, you can email them and say, my book is out, you're on page 23. If it makes sense, would you share this with your audience? Most of them probably will because you talked about them in your book. So if you combine like 10,000 words that you've written and a bunch of stories or quotes from other people, that'll make a really strong nonfiction book because more people will be sharing it. So don't think you have to just do everything yourself. It's also something you can crowdsource a little bit. If you have a platform, you could just ask your community for their stories. And the more people you can allow into the project that you're working on, the easier it'll be to market because you'll have people who will do the marketing for you. And then finally, like before you launch, you really want to focus on the introduction, conclusion, and offer. So on Amazon, people can click on the look inside. So the first few pages and the introduction and stuff, the stuff they see in the look inside, that's still sales copy. You're not just like talking to the readers yet because they may be people who haven't bought the book yet. So you still want to be selling the benefits of reading the book in the introduction because they may not have purchased it yet. And then in your conclusion, like you want the whole book to be good, but especially you want to leave them with a sense of satisfaction in the conclusion, especially if you're doing something like collecting a bunch of blog posts and putting them together and there's not really a cohesive story. The introduction and conclusion will really hold it all together. And then also the offer, which is just at the end of the book, what am I offering the readers for them to take the next step? Do I want them to sign up for I would use a free opt-in offer. So sign up to my free 5-day challenge or sign up to my bonus material. The other thing you can do in a nonfiction book is have specific content upgrades. So rather than just one offer at the end of every chapter, you could say, download this chapter's special workbook or cheat sheet or little extra bonuses you can put throughout the book so that there's more opportunity for them to be hooked by something so they get on your list. Because if you're doing a nonfiction book and you want to sell something else, you really need to get them on your list and give them something that attracts them enough to take another step of action. Because even if they bought the book, they may not actually want to have anything to do with you. They may not want to be on your list. They may not, want you to do marketing to them. But if you can get them on your list with a specific offer, so having more specific offers throughout the book, more content upgrades, that can work really well. How to write a book. You need to have an outline, so you need to plan like what you're going to say, but then it's mostly just about sitting down and writing it. Some people do really well with dictation because you can dictate faster. So if you're more of a talker and you don't like writing, dictation can actually work really well. There's some programs like Dragon Naturally Speaking, which works really well, but even in an iPhone, the microphone app and Notepad, you can just talk into your phone and it will write everything down. Later, you can clean that up and edit it. So there's lots of ways, but even if you type, I forget exactly what this means, but yeah, so it's about 1,000 words an hour if you type 40 words per minute, which isn't actually that fast. The hard part is usually if you don't know what you're saying and you get stuck. But if you're writing nonfiction, you're probably either telling stories from your life or you're sharing your expertise. So you should already know about the stuff that you're trying to write down. The hard part is probably in the editing later when you're trying to edit all together. But as long as you have a pretty clear outline and a structure, you won't get stuck or frustrated in the middle. You do have to sit down and do the work. The way that usually happens for me, at least, I need to do it first thing. So it needs to be like my one big thing every day. Every day I'm going to, start with writing my book. I'm going to set a timer. I do Pomodoro, which is like 20 minutes. So I might do like 3 20-minute sessions and I might get a couple thousand words a day. That's not a lot. I have friends who write 5,000 or 10,000 words a day and they just crank out books, but you can do 1,000 words a day or a couple thousand words a day and have a book done in a month or 2, depending how long it is. So I don't really believe in writer's block. I think if you're stuck, it's because it sucks. So sometimes, especially for fiction, when you just don't know what happens yet, or you don't feel good about this, or like the chapter, you're avoiding something either because you don't have the knowledge to write it, or you just think it's not good enough. Something's wrong. So it's not necessarily just pushing through it. Sometimes you just have to figure out, why are you resisting it? What's wrong with this section that I'm resisting it? Like maybe this isn't where it should be. Maybe this isn't the right thing at the right time for readers. Maybe you have to adjust your outline, your organization a little bit. So generally, if there's a problem, if you're resisting it, you need to fix the problem first. But otherwise, once you have a really strong outline, you kind of just have to sit down and do the work consistently. Writing a book is really just an hour a day for 30 days and you can have it done, but you have to actually do that hour a day. It's really easy to just get sidetracked or not do it. Once you stop writing, it's easy to like let a week or 2 or 7 months go by and not be working on your book. So most people, they've been working on a book or they have a book idea for like 5 or 10 years and they never make progress. And there's an opportunity cost, because if you always think like, I would like to write a book someday, but you never do it, you may feel guilty about not doing it, or you may feel like you're not good enough, or you may feel like you have all this mental bandwidth. You're always thinking about this book, but never writing it. So you could finish the book and then do other things instead of just spending all this time on this thing that you're never actually working on. So I thought it'd be kind of fun. And I have some stickers, actually. Let me grab those. I tried to boil down my most essential points into acronyms. And then yesterday I forgot what my acronyms meant. So today I had to figure out what I was thinking when I wrote these down. So you probably won't guess these, but if you can, I'll give you a sticker. So these are like short ideas. Some of them I'm familiar with. They're kind of common phrases in entrepreneurship. WIFT. Does anybody know what that means? No? Okay. It's
Is it writing?
no. It's what's in it for them. Because you have to focus on the value first. You have to focus on the readers and what they want and not the story you're trying to tell. So what's in it for them? I might have enough stickers actually to just give you all stickers later. My game is probably Like I couldn't even remember my answers. And then this part is just profit, not passion. A lot of people think writing a book should be about passion. I disagree. I don't think readers give a shit how passionate you are about the book. Um, and people will say things like, if you are passionate, your passion will shine through. And that's true, but you can enjoy writing a book and still write a book that nobody wants to read. And if readers don't enjoy reading it, it's not going to make any money. So I know for a fact, 95% of authors who are publishing books are writing books that nobody wants to read and they don't make any money, which means it's actually not that difficult to write books that make money if you're in the 5% that's deliberately doing it on purpose, because there's a huge audience. There's tons of demand for books. There's tons of people buying books, but there aren't very many people writing books that are deliberately trying to satisfy what readers want. So it seems like a lot of people think publishing is something they'll do maybe long-term later because it's too difficult or too hard. It's actually a great business, and it doesn't have to be very difficult to write a book or publish a book. This one? This is the one I got stuck on today. This is move fast, break shit. Which just means, and I've heard this said before, I used to really resist this. I've heard this said, like, if the first time you launch something, you're not a little bit disappointed with it or uncomfortable with it, then you didn't launch fast enough. And the idea is that you need to launch quickly to get feedback faster before you waste years writing something that nobody wants. And this is something a lot of people don't associate with publishing, because they think publishing should be about writing and making this perfect book. But what most authors do is they make a perfect, beautifully written book that nobody likes, that nobody wants to read. So they spend tons of time and money and investment on this product. There's nothing wrong with the product. It's really well done. People who are making lots of money, they're putting out books quickly that sell, that readers enjoy. They may still have some typos. They may not be perfect. But if you want to be a publisher as like a full-time author, you have to put out lots of books. Same with anything else. You have to do the thing a lot and fail a lot to get better. Unless you're failing, you're not improving your skills. You're not getting better. So you can't, and also just because as Elizabeth, what's her name? The Eat, Pray, Love Gilbert, as she said in one of her new books, what is it? I don't remember. Anyway, she said perfectionism is fear in high heel shoes, which just means a lot of people think, I'm a writer, I'm an artist, I'm not going to publish a book unless it's perfect. And actually, they're just afraid to put their work out in the real market. Like you can self-identify as a writer without ever publishing a book. So it's scary to actually publish a book and realize that thing you've been thinking about for 10 years, nobody cares about it, nobody likes it, nobody wants it. You'd rather just think it's a brilliant idea without getting any feedback. But that's a waste of time, because you're wasting a lot of time and mental bandwidth on something that isn't actually gonna pay you. And that's fine. You can always have hobbies. You can always do things you're passionate about. Again, going back to the beginning, I think it's more rewarding as an author to write things that people like. And if you write things that people like, you should get paid for your time. And you can actually get paid a lot for your time if you do it on purpose. This one was, let's see, move fast, break shit. Done is better than perfect. That's what that was. And this one. This means keep it simple, stupid. But I think I might have missed an I or something. Keep it simple, stupid. Which just means, especially for publishing, a lot of people, a lot of creative people, a lot of entrepreneurs will try to have this creative idea. So they'll try to take this weird new concept and they'll try to launch this new word into the lexicon. But nobody knows that word yet. So they're not looking for it and they won't get it. If people don't get what your book is about, if you try to be clever, this is be clear, not clever, because it's also, I have a background in book design. So in book design, a lot of authors, they want their book design to stand out and be unique and different and interesting. They want readers to be like, what's that? I don't get it. I don't understand. Let me look closer. And that's not how book cover design works. If they can't immediately know what the benefits are and what the genre is or what the subject is of the book, they're not going to look closer. So your book title and your book cover has to be super clear and obvious. So they're like, oh, that's the thing that I need because that solves the problem that I have. The easier it is, the less you're going to have to market it. If it's not clear, you're going to have to first get their attention and then educate them about what your book actually means and what your book is actually about. So you probably will never have that opportunity to sit down and like explain to readers what you were trying to do with your title. I'll have notes, or you can get the slides of this later, so I won't go through it all. And also because there's some more interesting slides I want to get to after this. But this is a kind of a simple introduction. And the advantage of doing an introduction like this, like I said before, the introduction is still kind of sales copy. So you can't just go into the content yet. You kind of have to still sell the concept and the book and yourself as the author. And you want to promise them like this book is going to help solve this problem. You want to do all that in the introduction so that they keep reading the book, or so that they buy the book. A lot of people that get books, and they might read the introduction, then they never read the book because the benefits weren't conclusive. Yeah, I'll skip this part. I think we talked about most of this earlier, actually. So the title and the subtitle, there's usually a lot of hyperbole in nonfiction books. This is the subtitle from Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. And this is not uncommon. Most nonfiction books promise huge results, even if they're completely unbelievable, because if there's a book like How to Make $1,000 a Month or How to Make 7 Figures, you're going to buy the 7-figure book because you're like, that's what I want. Like that's so anyway, even though it can feel kind of uncomfortable to make huge promises, they usually work better in nonfiction. You want to see if you can package your offer in a way that's attractive. So even if it's simple and solving a clear, specific problem, you still want it to be attractive enough. And it's the same thing with when you're selling things. I'm not sure if I'll get this right, but you want to focus on the benefits, not the features. So you don't want to talk specifically about what's included in the book, like the small stuff. You want to talk about what are their actual goals? Why do they want to read the book? What do they expect to get out of it? Not just the learning the thing, but so you can achieve your dream and travel and make lots of money or whatever. So you focus more on making it attractive, but also you need to have the keywords in your subtitle, in your title to get found. So with Amazon, you need keywords in the closer they are to the top left, the more powerful they are. Same with most SEO, I think. So if you have your keyword in the title on the far left, or you have your keyword first, for example, if my new novel is vampire magic instead of a clan of vampires or something, I will rank better for vampires when people are searching. And if I get more search traffic from Amazon, I'll probably sell more books. So you have to kind of think about that. Even in your description, you want to have your keywords up on the top left as much as possible, because it does make a difference in visibility. You can also be building a platform or doing book marketing or doing advertising, but the less you need to do that stuff, the easier it's going to be to sell more books or to be found. Okay, so in this one, stories plus sympathy, this is something kind of new. I've always focused on content. So I've always focused on really practical, specific nonfiction books to help people solve problems. And people like that stuff, but it's not very high value, because even if they learn exactly how to do it, they may not know anything about me. They may not know or like or trust me. So I've lost that opportunity to build a relationship with them. But also they may not be prompted to take action. I can give them all the information in the world, but if they're not going to use it, then I've lost out. So you need to give them practical information. But also the value is really in motivating them to take action and building a relationship with readers so that they follow up and that they want to keep working with you later. You can do things with stories. And this is also important if you're just an educator. If you're trying to educate them to learn this information, they're not going to remember it. It's just like being in school. If it's just a whole bunch of information, even if it's the best information in the world, they're not going to be able to remember it or understand it. So your job as an educator is to break it down and use metaphors or analogies that they can remember, that they can picture. So the way to do it is with stories. So like in every chapter, you should really start with, when I was 5, I fell off my bike and I did this and my dad said this. Because if you can paint that scene in their head and they can remember that scene, if that's the lead into your main concept in the chapter, that's what they'll remember. They'll remember those pictures that you built. And also you're building the sympathy, because the more that you can talk about, like you can't just talk about yourself because they don't care. But if you share interesting stories that are lead-ins to your actual content, it's a way of bridging the gap. So then they can not only learn the stuff from you, but also like you more as a human being. And I don't love this stuff because I feel like it's kind of manipulative, but it also works really well. I've always avoided putting myself in my books because I think it shouldn't be about me. It should be about them and what they can learn. But if I want to sell stuff, if I want people to like me and to support me, I have to get them to share sympathy. So there's hacks to doing that. Like you can say, you know, I was sick as a kid, or I had a friend who died, or I had, you know, I love dogs or cats. There's so many little things, and I don't like them because I see other people doing them, and I think it feels manipulative. But the idea is you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable and seen as a human being and not just some weird internet guy. You have to allow them to see you as a person, and give them points of sympathy. So even something simple like you see this all the time in course launches, but if you see like course launches where they're advertising a video, they might say something like, hey, this is my cat or my dog. And it's just some stupid little thing. But by showing you that they're an animal person, like they can't be that bad because they have pets. So now I'm going to listen to their sales pitch. It works. And that's why people use it. And you want to paint the dream. So you want to not just focus on the information, but focus on where they're trying to get to. And I learned a lot of this stuff recently. I don't know if you've seen this from Russell Branson's Expert Secrets book, which I hadn't read until recently. I'm not a huge fan. He's the founder of ClickFunnels. But his Expert Secret book made me realize a lot of things. Like I said, I've kind of been avoiding all of that stuff because I thought it was manipulative. But I've realized since reading that book, I was losing a ton of business by not allowing myself to make a personal connection with readers. So that's something I'm starting to focus on more. So he has this thing called like the perfect webinar funnel, which you can break down into an email series, an evergreen email series that launches a course or something. That's what I'm doing now. But I've also seen it done really well in nonfiction books. So your whole nonfiction book could be breaking down his perfect webinar into a full nonfiction book. So it's basically like you have to, instead of trying to say like, I'm going to teach you everything about everything, you have to say, I'm going to teach you one thing that will solve all your problems. And this one thing is broken down to these 3 secrets. And these 3 secrets are not actually the information. They're specifically meant to overcome the reader's objections or limitations. So they already have, like, the reason they're not taking action is not necessarily because they don't know how to do it. It's because they have self-limiting beliefs or doubts. So before you can even get them to take any action, you have to get them convinced that your solution will work for them. So it's not necessarily about providing value or teaching them how to do it, because even if you teach them how to do it, if they don't do it, it doesn't matter. So it's more important first to focus on overcoming their personal belief systems and motivating them to take action. So if at the end of the book, you can give them some actionable things, but mostly you can just get them to believe that they can actually see success if they follow your program, that's more valuable because you really want people to get to take action. And people will value it more, even if they didn't learn all the specific tips, even if they didn't learn exactly how to do it themselves. If they feel empowered and motivated, they're going to like you more. Your book is going to be more valuable to them because it helped them to believe in themselves, even if it didn't show them exactly how to do it. Let's see. Yeah, so your turn. How much time do I have left? So much time. Awesome. I can keep talking for a long time. But I'm going to take a little break because I want you to do this activity. Think about one small topic you know a lot about and a hungry market. So again, this shouldn't be, probably if you already have an idea of a book in your mind, that's probably not the book you want to write. That's probably your passion book. That probably shouldn't be your first book. Your first book should be something small that you don't really care about. So it's not going to be this thing that you end up spending years on. You want to be something like, this is kind of small that will be valuable to my audience. And I know a lot about it, but it's not like my huge life's mission to change the world. One small topic, map out a process you'd use to teach that about the topic. This mostly works for almost all nonfiction. Even if like you're a developer and you want more clients to hire you as a developer, you can still write a short, simple book to the thing that your clients want like if they hire you for something, maybe use Facebook apps or something, and you want more clients to hire you to build a Facebook app, you could still have something like how to build a Facebook app for dummies or for non-developers, something like that, that your clients will read. But the truth is, the people will like they'll buy books first if as part of their buyer's journey. They'll buy some books just to see like how hard this actually is. Can I learn how to do it myself? But then they'll hire someone. So if they read your book and they're like, well, this was pretty good, but this sounds hard, I don't want to do it, then they'll just hire you to do it. So you can give away all your secrets and teach your knowledge and still attract clients who will pay you just to do it for them. Yeah, and then write the introduction. So I'll go back to that introduction slide so you can take quick notes. Try to do this really quickly on like 1 page or less, and think about your title and subtitle. And I'll give you like 5 minutes. And then if you want feedback on your title and subtitle, I can give you that, or we can ask each other. I talk really fast.
Yeah, I know.
I usually run out of time. I have so much slides. I think I probably have another like 20 slides that we could get to as backup. Maybe we should open the doors. It's really warm in here. Okay, I'm going to keep going. One other thing I'm going to mention, I'll set you a challenge. So if you can finish a rough draft in the next 30 days, which I think you can do, I've been doing cover design, so I have a kind of package of book design resources to make your own book covers and to make like nice 3D mockups and stuff. So if you finish a rough draft in the next 30 days, then I'll let you have that and you can make your own little book cover, at least for pre-marketing. Even if you haven't finished the book yet, you can be like, I'm working on this book and start talking about it. And the nicer your graphics look, the more easy it is to get people to buy in to the project you're working on. Also, I was going to say, books work pretty well for opt-in offers on your website, but not that well. I would actually publish the book on Amazon. One of the advantages of publishing on Amazon or on iBooks or whatever is just that you're on more marketplaces, so people can find you easier. Opt-ins tend to work better if they're really specific. So I've tried books. I have like a starting library of 5 books. It doesn't convert as well as something like a 10-page PDF or a 1-page cheat sheet or something. Those tend to work better. So I would actually write a 10,000 or 20,000 word book to publish it. or even many, like rather than one big topic, if you can break it down. One of the things I'm doing is like a best-selling author platform in 21 days, but instead of one book, it'll be 21 little tiny books on specific topics, like how to do social media marketing and etc. Just because then I'm hitting 21 different search queries. So my books are always going to show up, and it's going to look like I have this huge arsenal of books, even if they're all much shorter. So you don't have to think about just publishing one book. You can be publishing many books or several books on all the topics that would attract your audience. And it gets easier the more that you do this. Yeah, I'm going to skip over to some of the marketing stuff. You might have questions. Before I continue, does anyone have questions now? We'll have more time for questions later, but I'll get into some of the publishing and launching stuff. Publishing is basically number 4. So it's book design and formatting. So all you really need is a front cover, which is a JPEG. Usually you upload it on Kindle, and then you get your manuscript formatted for EPUB and Mobi. Mobi is the Kindle version of EPUB, but it's just ebook formatting. I have a free tool that can convert your Word file. You can also just upload your Word file to Kindle, but it probably won't look great. You probably want to learn enough about formatting to do it yourself, or just hire someone cheap. You can get formatting done for $50 or $100. And then print formatting is a little more challenging because you need to format the paperback, like the interior of your manuscript, and add footers and headers and page chapter titles. And it has to look pretty decent because it's going to be in print. So if you do that wrong, your book can look homemade and kind of crappy. So that's usually worth hiring a designer if you want to. You can format in InDesign. It looks a little cleaner. I have templates that you can use and learn how to do it yourself, but it's a pain in the ass. So it's really easier just to get someone else to do that. And then your book cover design for print has to, once you know your interior formatting, so you know the exact page count, you'll have to adjust the spine width of your full print cover, which is also kind of a pain in the ass. You can get templates for that and calculate it, but unless you're really good with Photoshop, it can be difficult to get all that stuff right. I'm a fan of DIY, so I have a lot of resources to help authors DIY because I don't think that it should be a requirement that people spend a lot of money to publish books. But also, if you do DIY everything and you have an unprofessional looking book design, that can hurt your sales or your credibility. So it's worth doing it right. If you want to get other people to share for you, it's difficult to be like, hey, I have a book launch this week. Could you help me share it? Most people will say no. But if you ask them 6 months in advance, they might say yes, because people always think, I have tons of time 6 months from now. They just think it'll be easy for them. So if you can get a commitment a long time in advance, it's easier to get more yeses, especially if, like you did what I said earlier, and you ask people to submit a little story or answer a question so that you're featuring them in the book. That'll give them a reason to share. So if you can get them to say yes to giving you a little story or answering a question, and then you say, that's great, I'm going to launch it in 6 months, would you be willing to share it with your audience? You could try to get that kind of confirmation early, because you'll have more success the earlier you do it. I'm lazy, so I don't do that kind of stuff. I usually, I just set my book up on pre-order in 30 days. I haven't finished the last 5 chapters. Now it's live on Amazon, so people are buying it. It's already doing pretty well, which is awesome, but I have to write the book and publish it pretty quickly. So I'm not going to have time to plan out a good launch strategy. But I don't really care either, because I have a platform now, so I can basically just email my list and say my book is available. And if enough people buy it quickly when you launch it, it'll go up to the top of Amazon. And as long as new people see it and buy it, because it has a great cover and the sales copy is really good, it'll stay at the top of Amazon and it'll keep selling. So that's what I focus on doing. I do a lot of platform building and building my audience, but I don't do the organized long-term book launch. It's important if you want to have a smash selling nonfiction book. It's worth doing right, but I'd rather just put out more books quickly and kind of get them to do okay. I'm happy with a couple thousand on Amazon a month, although I've been mostly doing the specific simple nonfiction stuff to attract clients, and I'm going to start be doing the bigger brand manifesto books, because I'm at that stage now where that makes sense for me. So for those books, I will try to, for a USA Today bestselling author, you have to sell about 10,000 copies in a week. So that'll be my goal for my next nonfiction book. I wouldn't recommend trying to do that for your first book launch unless you're just, what's the word, ambitious. It's possible if you want to do it. It's totally possible. It just takes a lot of work. Yeah, I finished pretty early. I have other resources on my blog. Those are links, so you can't click them or anything. You can just look at them. I've published books, and in the print version, it says, click here for more information. And I just forgot to take that out of the print version. So I'm a little lazy with my publishing. I think it's better to have something done that's imperfect than to try to do something that's really perfect. Not everybody agrees with me, but the main thing is if you don't have something done, you don't have anything. Like if it's just an idea in your head, it's not a book. It's not building your business. It's not doing anything. It's really just draining resources. Questions? If no questions, who wants to share their title or subtitle or their book idea?
Do you hire any other writers?
I don't, but my friend Willie does, and he's not here, I think, which is kind of too bad. But his whole business model is he has a team of 5 or 6 authors. He pays them to write the book. He pays someone to do the covers and the editing. He doesn't read the books, and he's doing fiction. It's all like horror fiction. He has 60 books out, and he's making, I think, about 10K a month from that business. I don't think it's all profit, but so he's doing okay, and he's not writing the books. And I know people who do that, and that can totally work. I've tried to do that, and the reason I haven't been successful yet is I've hired some ghostwriters, and I've tried to like give them my story outline because I'm not good at the drafting process. I'm good at the revision or the outlining. So I tried to focus on my strengths and just hire other people to do a quick rough draft that I could polish and clean up. But because it's my name on the books, I'm a little too controlling about the story. So even if they're good writers, if they didn't tell the story that I had in my mind, if they didn't tell it the right way, then I have to like revise the shit out of it. And then it just takes me too long, and I could have just done it myself. I still think I have a lot of author friends who co-write. So they kind of take turns writing together. And that works really well because there's a partner accountability. So they both have to like be producing. And there's more like enthusiasm for the project. That can work really well. I would like to be better at that, but you have to be really flexible. So I'm not a flexible person in that regard, I guess. Like if I have my name on it and it's my book idea, I want it to be not even a certain quality, just kind of my style, so that because I don't want to like market it as my book if it's not my voice. But that's not a great business. For a really great business, it'd be easier not to have your name on the books and just put out a whole bunch of content, so you're not so personally invested.
What do you recommend for like self-publishing sites?
CreateSpace and Kindle, and Amazon's Kindle Unlimited program. So the option is usually either you go all in with Amazon and you enroll in their 3-month exclusivity program, which is Kindle Unlimited. And basically, people pay like $10 a month for a certain number of books. And then Amazon takes all that money and they divide it up by how many pages people have read of your books. So they used to do it by book, but then some people would just publish a whole bunch of crappy 10-page books and they get all the money for all the borrows of those books. So they tried to make it more fair by calculating the page reads so that it's not just whether someone borrows your book, but it's whether they actually read it and how much they read it. It doesn't work for everybody. For nonfiction, it may not be the right move depending on how long it is because you get paid more for longer books, but it does help your visibility a lot. So if you're in the Kindle Unlimited program, your sales rank will be better. So you get more visibility. It'll be easier to be a #1 bestseller or to stay in the top 20 of your category. You have to choose your categories well. You can be added up to 10 categories on Amazon, even though when you're publishing, it'll only ask you for 3, but you can contact customer support and say, I would like you to add my book in these 7 extra categories. And you want to choose categories where there's not that much competition so that you can stay ranking pretty well. Because if you're not on the top 20, there's 20 books per page. So if you're not in the top 20, you're not on the first page of search results, and you're not going to be found or seen. So it's nice to stay in as many top 20s as you can by choosing your categories well. It's a 3-month exclusivity program. It's easier to just go all in Amazon and send all your traffic to Amazon. Like if you can get 100 sales, it's better to get 100 sales on Amazon and spike your rank up so you get more visibility than to spread it out over 10 sites and only get 10 sales on every site, because you'll never get to #1. You'll never have the visibility. So I think if you're starting out, it's just easier to go all in on Amazon. Some of my friends, there's a lot of controversy with Amazon because they're too powerful and they're figuring their stuff out. So they make, last week they accidentally deleted like everybody's reviews. So a lot of people were freaking out because they had hundreds of reviews disappear. And most of them came back, but Amazon's trying to combat the fake review problem or the spammers, the robots. So they're building robots to fight spammers, and they accidentally penalize some authors. Right now, even authors who do a legitimate promotion campaign, like if I launch a book to my list and I sell 1,000 copies, that'll probably trigger flags on Amazon system, and they'll think I'm manipulating my rank because I've had a successful book launch, and they might freeze my book or freeze my rank for a while, which sucks, but there's not really anything you can do about it. You want to launch the best you can. So some authors are saying, you want to have your eggs in many baskets. Is that the word? I don't know. Just to be safe. But generally, they don't sell as many books. So what happens often is they decide, I'm going to publish wide because I don't like Amazon, and then their income goes way down. So then they go back to Amazon because they were making more money.
How do you figure out the categories? Just like looking around for all the category tags?
Yeah, there are tools. I use KDP Rocket, which is a really good research tool for Amazon. But you can also go onto Amazon and search for all the key. You should have like a keyword list. And you can also use KDP Rocket to search for the keywords that people are searching for. So then you have a list of like, this is what my audience wants. You can put those on Amazon and see what actually shows up. And you can look at all those books and see what categories they're in. And then you'll click on those categories and see like the top 20 books, how much are they actually selling? Like if I'm number 2 in that category, how many books would I be selling? Because that's relevant. Like you want to know, even if you're number 1 in some category, you may not sell any books. So it's still nice, but it's worth doing research. And then you can also, like, I wouldn't choose my title or my subtitle until I've done research because I want to make sure I'm matching what people are looking for. Right now, Dragon Shifter Reverse Harem Romances are where it's at if you want to make tons of money. KDP Rocket, ROCKET. KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing. It's by Dave Chesson, who runs Kindlepreneur, which is kind of like a Kindle publishing blog.
How many books have you written?
10 or 15 probably. Not all of them are pretty good. Some of them are really bad. Some of them, they're invisible on Amazon. I have one, and I made a lot of mistakes. I made all the mistakes I talked about before, where I like tried to think of something cool and clever and creative, and then it didn't sell. You know the books that are like, you are a badass, or they have swear words? I tried one of those that didn't work well. I think mine was, you are fucking awesome, do something that matters. And it was weird because like people don't feel comfortable searching for it. Or if you use fucking, but you don't use the you, I use like a hashtag because you can't really use swear words in Amazon because they may suppress the results because they don't want to show stuff to minors who are on the platform. But then if you spell it weird, no one's finding it anyway, and it might alienate your audience. So it's still like there are books that sell ridiculously well with swear words in them, but I think you need to have a much bigger platform and really market it well to do it. So I've made some mistakes. I've had some books that aren't very good.
So you talked about like doing research and stuff, but do you do anything to validate your idea first? Like maybe like a blog post, like a teaser, or like introduce.
I do, and people kind of hate me for it, but when I started writing fiction, I had no experience writing a whole novel, so I was really frustrated. I just couldn't do it. So I gave myself permission to write half novels, and I published those. So I published like 40K of a book that had no resolution. It just ended on a huge cliffhanger. I did 5 of those, and people really like them, and then they're really angry because it's not a complete story, and there's no book 2. There's just nothing. And a lot of these have been up. Some of these have been up like a year or 2. So I have a lot of readers who are like, they're fans and they hate me because I never finish any stories, or have like book 1, which is a little more satisfying, but still not the end. It's basically just the introduction. But I'm pretty good at writing first books now. And this year I'll go back and write book 2s for a bunch of series. And then eventually when I have a whole series out, you can make a lot more money with series just because the more money you make per product, the more you can spend on ads. So if you have a first book that's $2.99, it's hard to be profitable with advertising, so you can't scale. But if you have a box set at $9.99, you can spend a lot of money on ads. You can outcompete all the other authors. The other advantage of self-publishing is if you're publishing on KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing, you get access to Amazon's advertising system. And most traditionally published authors don't have that. So you're only competing against other successful self-publishing authors in that advertising space. It's not like Facebook where it's just everybody. So you can do really well just advertising on Amazon, but your book has to be profitable or else you won't make the money back. And most authors, like I said, they don't have books that anybody wants, or they're just not very professionally designed. So there's not like it's difficult, but it's not that difficult because most people are doing everything wrong. So if you're doing everything right, it can be pretty easy to be successful.
I've got a question. So if you had like a substantial website on a specific topic, could you handpick your best like long format blog posts and repurpose that
Yep.
as a book?
Yes. A lot of people do that. And I would caution only to add a really good introduction, conclusion, and explain things. And readers don't really care. Like they're fine paying for a book, even if the stuff is free. What I believe you can't do is put it into the Kindle Unlimited program because it's supposed to be exclusive for a certain amount of time. And it's okay, like as long as it's revised or edited, if you've added like 25% of content and you've restructured or like you change the introduction, the conclusion of every chapter, so it's not exactly the same, it's probably fine anyway. I also, technically on the Kindle Unlimited program, it's exclusive, which means you're not supposed to have the same book on other ebook distribution platforms like iBooks or Kobo. I've gotten in trouble for that. I had a book that I enrolled in the program, but I accidentally had a copy on Google Play that I forgot about. So they kicked me out. And I made a big fuss and they finally let me back in, but they kicked me out for a while. So you have to be kind of careful about that. But they don't have the capacity to send robots to scroll over your website to see if you have that same content. They don't look for the content. They might look for the title or subtitle or cover on other ebook platforms, but they won't really like scroll your site to find matching content. I believe, although they might a little bit, because if you have like if you use like Project Gutenberg's ebooks and you republish on Kindle, I think they'll find out because it's free content. And if you do that, they can kick you out of the program or close your Amazon account. But otherwise, it's fine. And if you go wide, which you might want to do anyway, which just means you publish on iBooks and Kobo and all the other ones, that doesn't matter. And yeah, it's like you could have a book done tomorrow. You just take your content and format it. It's pretty easy. You can actually probably, if you have a blog, you can just, if you have categories on your blog, you could probably have 5 books written already just by pulling different information.
Are you using your real name and have you thought about using a different name for different books?
I only have a pen name on erotica that doesn't sell. Because I tried that, but I didn't have the confidence. So what I have is I use Derek Murphy for my nonfiction stuff, and I use DS Murphy for my fiction stuff. And this is important, so I'll talk a little bit about it. You basically want Amazon to promote your books to the right audience organically. And so you have to train Amazon who likes your books, who's the right audience for your books. So until recently, what I had was just, even though I had Derek Murphy versus DS Murphy, I had one Author Central account. So on Amazon, they have 3 different platforms, but they have Author, Amazon Central, KDP, and CreateSpace, which are 3 different platforms. But you can set up your Author Central account and claim your books. But I had all my books on the same Author Central account. So what happens is, if somebody buys my novel, or they follow me on Amazon, if I put out a new book, Amazon will send them an email saying, Derek wrote a new book. Are you interested? But if someone buys my novel and Amazon sends them my next nonfiction book, they're not going to buy. And so Amazon's going to learn that people don't like my books, and then they'll stop promoting my books. Or if some people if it's mixed, some people buy maybe, and this happens actually, it's not great, but even now that I've divided it into, I have 2 Author Central accounts, one for Derek Murphy, one for DS Murphy with my fiction. Because I talk a lot about publishing, a lot of other authors buy my books to see if I can write, because they're like, is this guy just a marketing guy, or is he a real writer? So I get the wrong kind of people buying my books, which isn't good for me because Amazon will see that person and see that they usually buy nonfiction writing books, and then they bought my novel. So they'll try to show my novel to more people like that other person, and it's not the right audience. So if you're getting mixed results and Amazon showing you to like random people, that won't help you. What you really want is very targeted people who buy other books in your space. Because the other thing that's really important is on your Amazon page, there will be the also bought section. So people who bought this book also bought these other books. And you want really clean also boughts that are related to your category so that, for example, I'm launching a vampire book. I want my vampire book to be on every other vampire books page so that when people search for like Twilight, my book shows up there because that's free advertising. But to do that, I need to make sure only vampire lovers are buying my books. If I get too many other weird people buying, it'll screw up my also bots and my visibility will go down. I did a campaign on Amazon owns Goodreads now, and Goodreads has a giveaway promotion. So I tested it out for the ebook. And the idea was it's not terrible because you basically buy 100 of your own books and give them out to readers. But because they were using the same account to buy all those ebooks and give them out, my also bots got really messed up. So for the 2 books that I ran that promotion on, my sales tank died for a long time because it just screwed up all my also bots. So Amazon is confused and they don't know who to promote it to. They don't know who likes the book. And so it loses all the visibility.
Do you have 2 accounts now or several?
On Author Central, you can have up to 3 pen name accounts. So you can have the same account and just divide it. It's weird. On Kindle, you can publish it all in the same account, but different pen names. That you can choose whatever author name you want on your Kindle account. But Amazon's really weird. So they do things like, for example, because I use my email for my Kindle account and also my Amazon account where I buy books, I can't review books anymore because Amazon thinks authors can't be unbiased. So they don't trust my book reviewing abilities. But they've told me I need to just set up a new Amazon account with a different email, even though it's me and like the same person, same name. They suggested that solution because they don't allow me to review books because I'm using that email with that publishing account. So they want me to have a different reader's account, which is ridiculous because the reason they do that is because a lot of authors have signed up for all these fake accounts so they can leave shitty reviews on their competitors. So they're trying to like stop that behavior, but it's kind of a mess. I mean, there's such a big platform. There's so many people abusing the platform. They have to try to fix the problems. But there's a lot of messy stuff with Amazon. Any other questions? How are we doing on time? Time?
I have a question. How many people are doing this? Like, what's your cohort? Like, other publishers? I think there's like, I don't know, 10,000 people or like 200 people in the
That's interesting. There are millions of people who want to write a book or publishing a book. Everybody wants to. The problem is most people, they don't want to learn how to do it themselves. So they just hire some expensive marketing agency or publishing agency. There's a lot of vanity presses or scams because there's so much demand. Everybody has this book they want to write. So if someone says, I'll help you publish your book, it just costs $15,000. A lot of people pay it because it sounds great. But like 95% of those millions of people aren't writing books that people want to read. And 95% of the hungry reading public who buys books aren't satisfied because they want more books. They want more good quality books. So of the people who are doing it on purpose, a lot of them are writing crappy books or they're the business side of it and they don't worry about quality or they're just like putting out lots of content. So I also would suggest that's not really your competition either. I don't think there's a lot of competition of people who are deliberately writing good books on purpose, which is why I think it's a pretty good business model. And also because like I said earlier, most people think publishing a book is too hard or takes too much time. So like they just want to focus on their business and they'll do like Facebook ads or something. I think it's a really easy way to boost your business. And a lot of people are doing it, but they're not doing it very well. Or they're kind of like half-assing it. Or like everybody fails with their first book. They put out one book and most people fail. And then they're like, oh, I didn't sell any copies and I don't get any book reviews, maybe I'm not a good writer or this is too hard. So the people who stick with it long enough to learn how to do it aren't that many. But I like to say out of all those people, like you have to be in the top 10,000 on Amazon to actually make pretty good money with your books. But of those top 10,000 books, most of those are people who have 10 or 20 books out. So I think it's like, I think there's around 1,000 authors who are making more than 100,000 a year from Amazon. And I know people, 100,000, which isn't a ton. Like 1,000 people are making more than 100,000. I would guess it's more than that. I think that's a couple years old. But I also have friends. I have a friend who's making 80,000 a month. And I have a couple other friends who are making almost $1 million a month, but they've built like a huge publishing agency. So they have, rather than just one writer, like I said, my friend who makes 80,000, she co-writes with like 5 other people. So partly like she's able to put out a lot of books quickly. So she has her name on all these books that she's written half of. So her author profile is always really good in the Amazon ranking. So whenever she publishes a new book, she gets a lot of feedback. But my other friends, they basically are just an entertainment business. So they have probably 20 other authors who are writing books in their universes, and they're kind of just maintaining all of the content. But they're making tons of money. And Bella Forrest, who writes, she has like 70 books in her vampire series, but now I think she also hires ghostwriters. And she makes, so on the one hand, like there's a few people totally, and there's a lot of people who aren't doing it on purpose, and they don't want to do it on purpose. They want to write the art and do what they're passionate about. So I don't think it's that competitive because most people aren't thinking about publishing books as a business. I have stickers if you want one. It's kind of like I'm a writer, I'm going to write this book motivation. I'll put them here. Actually, I'll put some there and you can pass some down.
Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, if you finish a book, let me know and I'll give you some access to some bonus stuff that you can use to publish it.